Hey everybody, welcome to Animal Activism Collective's YouTube channel. Trey with you here, and I'm joined by some incredible guests. We are going to get into the Vogue campaign, the Condé Nast campaign, and I am so excited to be joined by CAFT. And yeah, we're going to really get into it here. First of all, welcome everybody. How's it going?
Going great.
Good. Sorry, I don't know how to unmute, but I figured.
Doing good. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I don't know. When I got the news, when I found out that Condé Nast was going for free, I mean, I know for me, I was just so incredibly excited. And I know it's very hard as activists sometimes to just like sit in that moment and really enjoy a win because, you know, we're constantly thinking about, well, what do we have to do now that we've won? And like, what's next? And all those types of things. But I just want to like create a little space right here in this moment while y'all are not doing anything else. And while the people who are watching who contributed to this campaign are not doing anything else, to just take a moment and really just celebrate and, you know, pat yourselves on the back and say, and let me pat you on the back and say, good job. Like, this is so awesome. It's such a huge win. I'm so thrilled. So I'm curious. We can go around the horn and just talk about this. Like, what was the feeling that you had when you found out? And yeah, we can start with Susie.
I mean, I was just incredibly excited. I was with Lauren, so we were both just like, wow. And to me, like, I don't know, this sort of like solidifies that the end of the fur industry is like truly near. I mean, obviously, we have still more work to do. But you know, for many years, the majority of the public has already been against fur. You know, people recognize the extreme cruelty behind it, and now even like somewhat more significantly, with Vogue pledging to stop showing fur, you know, the fashion world has essentially turned its back on fur. So, you know, this is due to the work that everyone put into this campaign, the many years that activists have been, you know, advocating for these animals and the end of the fur industry. So, yeah, I mean, this is just one more pillar supporting the fur industry that has been knocked down. And I think the industry knows this. So, yeah, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah, Lauren, you want to go next?
Sure, and I'll throw the congratulations back to you too. You did a ton of work on this campaign, and when we were picking this campaign, you were 100% on that call. And I think you were the most vocal supporter of "I like Condé Nast the best." I feel like you were one of the people that like tipped us over. Like, okay, let's do Condé.
I don't honestly remember.
No, you did. I
Yeah.
like absolutely because we had like another idea, and you had tipped us over. And you got us overly excited. So, oh, it'd be so cool if we did that. Um, yeah, I was with Susie when we found out, but we weren't sure yet. I feel like it hit me when I was calling off protests. So we were calling the cities and be like, "Hey, don't go out and protest today. We got to figure something out." Which they all know what that means, or they usually do. And we were talking to DC, trying to get them to not go out, and the DC organizer goes, "You guys are so crazy for this, for like thinking that you're allowed to go after a magazine and get them to drop fur, and they just do." Like, he just had like a really cute reaction, and yeah, I feel like that's when it hit me. But Mark, what about you?
I think I mostly felt relief. I was actually also with another CAFT member. I was with Annabelle at an outreach event in Los Angeles at the time. And I'd actually gone down to Los Angeles to do kind of like, in a way, emergency protests for the campaign. I'm sure we'll get into it more, but we were a little bit under the gun in this campaign when we won. And so I think I was just like incredibly relieved. I like I don't know, that was my predominant emotion at the time. And then I'm also scrambling because I'm trying to do outreach and also figure stuff out for the wrapping things up on my phone. But it was incredible.
Yeah, I don't think people, you mentioned relief. I think some people who are maybe not involved in pressure campaigns don't know how much can go into one, like all of the research and the strategy, and even just like picking the targets and all that stuff. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that happens from organizers all around the world. In the instance of Condé Nast, that's like a international company. I saw that people in London were doing incredible work. People here in the States doing incredible work. People, across Europe, I think. So yeah, I mean, just a great like global effort to get this done, and a lot of work and a lot of time from a lot of people who really just believed in the campaign. And I know that's like an important part of a campaign too, is like people believing in it. And I'm glad people rallied around this one and really got it done. Does it feel real? Does it feel real that you won? I know this is like a unique kind of victory too. It's a little bit different.
I think it feels real. I think we all had different experiences of it. To me, I was like, okay, we're either getting sued or we're about to win. But like we'd had a really great demo a couple days before, and that wasn't the main thing. But like, I do remember talking to Annabelle and being like, I think like we might be like in a good spot here. Like I'm not sure, because it's like that thing where it's like the outcomes are so good or so bad. But I mean, to be clear, I actually think we would have still won if we had gotten sued. But that was certainly not, it would have taken much longer, and that would have not been the way we'd want to go. But so it feels real to me, but I feel like everybody had kind of a different experience of it.
I think on the CAFT team, I'm the one that ping pongs the most. So like I'm probably the one where you talk to me on Wednesday, I'm like, this campaign's going on for 2 more years. And you talk to me on Thursday, and I'm like, I think we're about to win. Like I'm very, very like indecisive on these campaigns. To me, it started feeling real when all the other animal rights orgs like validated it. I feel like that doesn't always happen, but it was like every animal rights group in the world was like, oh my God, this is huge. So I feel like that like gave me some relief, or like, okay, everybody like accepts it, and it validates the win, that it's the right thing to have done and a good thing.
Yeah. Can we talk about that? Like you were talking about like people rallying around this campaign. I know a lot goes into choosing a target, especially when it comes to CAFT. I know CAFT is like very meticulous about this. Can you talk a little bit just about why Condé Nast was chosen as a target as opposed to something else? Because it's a unique victory, because Condé Nast and Vogue. For those that don't know, Condé Nast is the parent company of Vogue magazine, Vanity Fair, GQ, Pitchfork, and several others. So when we're talking about Condé Nast and Vogue, it's kind of one and the same, but just for clarification. But yeah, why was this chosen instead of like a company that actually sells fur? Because it seems like Condé Nast and Vogue, I guess they're promoting fur, but they're not actually selling it. So can we talk about like, was it hard to get people to rally around this campaign? Did people understand it? And kind of, what do we think the effects of this will be? Susie, I haven't heard from you in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we were kind of like walking into a little bit of uncharted territory with this campaign, because, as you mentioned, we usually, most of our campaigns are going after designers. So, it's very like cut and dry. We're protesting outside of stores. But, Condé Nast and Vogue magazine, they don't have any storefronts. So we had to get a little bit creative. But the reason why we chose Condé Nast and, especially Vogue in particular, is because of the cultural relevance. Vogue magazine is such an influential publication when it comes to fashion. And, we just really want to make sure that the fur industry disappears from the fashion world. And I think this is what this victory has achieved.
Yeah, culture, I think, especially when it comes to like fashion and stuff, is so incredibly important because, yeah, I mean, like if you see something in Vogue, like Vogue has a lot of followers, a lot of people who are watching their stuff, and if they're normalizing it, um, then yeah, people might buy it. So what do you think was like the key to success in securing this victory? I know there's a lot of different there's strategies and there's tactics that go into these things. Is there anything that like really stands out as to why you think that we were able to get the victory on this one?
Well, I'll go back a second because I will say to your last question, I also felt like I think you asked about like getting people on board, and I'd actually say surprisingly, I don't think that was the hardest thing in terms of like the people we normally work with, getting them to understand and want to work on this campaign. I do think we just have like a really great community, and a lot of people were immediately like, we're like, yeah, we're trying to change the weather of the industry here, make it easier to beat companies like LVMH. People were just on board, and I mean, there were exceptions, of course, and I think maybe like there were groups that we don't work with as much that are kind of like, what the hell are you doing? I'm sure the general public, definitely reactions from people we meet in the general public were like, what the hell is this campaign? But I think among animal rights activists, I would actually say the reception was pretty good. Can't really complain much there. Pretty grateful. In terms of things that made it successful, like it's a lot of things, and I'm definitely going to miss some of them here. But when we kicked off, it was a little bit tricky because Condé Nast doesn't really have locations. They have an office in some incredibly high up floor on the World Trade Center. And so that's not an amazing target for sure. Don't think they'd be able to hear our protest. And they had special events. So a lot of what we did starting out was like secondary targeting, going after board member connections to particularly Roger Lynch, the head of Condé Nast. We were going after Diana Ferguson. And Sally Beauty with American Girl doll, which is like a connection with Mattel, who he's also on the board for. So these kind of like, they feel like fringy secondary targets, but that was a lot of what we had to work with. I actually do think they had a big impact. But still, like we did this for a while because normally we would, with our traditional targets, we typically start with like store demos, and that's a kind of easy, clear path. Eventually we did need to escalate this, and I think that really began with the New York convergence with AAC. I forget which month that was now, but earlier, like during the summer. And so we had a ton of that was when we started home protests for Condé Nast. And I think that definitely like changed the tone of the campaign. I think even for these other like secondary protests, where people are doing, American Girl or whatever it is, having the protests happen as well as those happening, it like changes the way people perceive those protests, where they know that this stuff is all on the table as well. And then we kind of continued to escalate after that. So after the New York convergence, there were regular home demos every week in New York. And then that kind of escalated in frequency again with the Rage Tour coming through New York, where we were doing home demos multiple times a day. There was the New York March, where they had like a massive demo at the end of it for Alistair McKim. And so that kind of escalation happened right after the Rage Tour. Actually, we got a cease and desist, and that was kind of our first indication from Condé Nast that like they hate our campaign. And then that we got shortly before winning, we got a second cease and desist. I'm not sure if we actually like had fully publicized that yet. But we got a second cease and desist. That was why we were really thinking like, okay, they may actually be moving forward with a lawsuit. It seemed like they had private investigators involved. But at that point, the campaign was expanding so much across a bunch of cities. A bunch of new cities had picked it up. And I think that really sends a message that this is not just like a few people who you can make go away. This is like becoming a global campaign. And the repression, the lawsuit isn't going to change that. We're going really heavily after a secondary target, Mattel, as well, that I think they probably wouldn't be covered by a Condé Nast lawsuit. So really, we were just trying to send the message that this campaign doesn't go away regardless of the lawsuit. We had like a really crazy demo out in Los Angeles as part of that shortly before. So I think it just got out of control for them, and they knew that they couldn't wait 2 years to beat us in court. They had to do something about this now.
Yeah, you talked about the lawsuits, or not the lawsuits, but the cease and desists. And yeah, CAFT and AAC got cease and desist letters. So I think maybe that says something too about unity and how much the companies and the entities that we go up against are seeing a unified grassroots animal rights movement, and all these different organizations are getting involved and really applying the pressure in bigger and bigger ways. Because I know like the first campaign, first CAFT campaign I got involved with was the Alice and Olivia campaign, and that was years ago. And I think it was like me and 3 other people, or maybe 4 other people, went to the Alice and Olivia in Atlanta. We yelled for 20 minutes and then we left. And then there was like a win like a week later. We were like, what? This is amazing. And now to see it, just like, that was one of the first CAFT campaigns, I think, or the new iteration of CAFT. And I think it just has caught on and caught on and caught on. And now it's not a crazy idea when somebody says, hey, let's go after one of the biggest fashion publications in the world. Yeah, sure. You know what I mean? I know there's more thought into it than that, but it's great that we're at a point where it's not a crazy idea to do something like that. And you also mentioned the secondaries, and I want to go to Lauren for this. I just want to talk to people that are viewing this that don't know much about pressure campaigns, or maybe don't know much about secondary targets, the significance of that and why it's important. Because a lot of the people on social media who are commenting are wondering, why in the hell are these anti-fur activists at American Girl protesting fur, in front of a bunch of kids or whatever. And, American Girl doesn't even sell fur. Like, what is going on here? Is this effective? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I think that's actually I personally think that Mattel, the secondary you just brought up, is one of the main reasons we won. But you're going to get a different answer from every person. But yeah, so Mattel is Roger Lynch, the CEO of Condé Nast, is on the board of Mattel. Mattel, luckily, has a bunch of stores. And Barbie is probably the number one toy, for Mattel. Barbie actually has a fur-free policy, so we couldn't go after Barbie. Barbie the doll is anti-fur. So American Girl is another store underneath Mattel. And we would protest them because we want the other board members and the executive director of American Girl to be talking to Roger Lynch, be like, what? Why are the goons from your other thing coming to my business and ruining our day, ruining our biggest shopping days? We want them hearing from everybody. We wanted him hearing from his other board members. We had a lot of cities going after Diana Ferguson, who was another board member. And we just wanted this complaining to come from absolutely every angle. And the secondaries are also, I think it kind of makes us a little bit more lawsuit proof, because when those cease and desists came out, the first one came out, we upped our amount of protests. And the second one came out, and the second one seemed to reference a Mattel home demo. It said like somebody who wasn't even at Condé Nast that came to us like 2 days after DC had home protested a Mattel executive. So I think that when they saw that the cease and desist weren't working, actions were exploding. I think Milan did their wheat pasting after we got the cease and desist. So like this really was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I just think, like, how are they going to sue us? Who's suing us at this point? Is it Mattel? Is it Condé Nast? Is it both of them, or on the same thing? So I think just being chaotic and untenable is a really a really good asset to these campaigns.
Yeah, you mentioned the home demos. And for those who don't know what home demos are, that's when activists go directly to the homes of decision makers, or whoever they think might be able to have influence over getting what the activists are asking for. Yeah, and Susie, would you want to talk about home demos more and just like why they are deployed in campaigns? I know like some comments from people, mostly people who are not activists at all and don't care about our cause, like a lot of trolls and stuff like that. But some people might genuinely be curious, why home demos? Why go directly to someone's house? A lot of people say this isn't the way that it should be done. Why aren't you, putting out a petition, or like, why aren't you going directly to their offices or whatever? Why go to their homes?
Yeah. So first, I just want to say, home demos, they are a tactical escalation for campaigns. It's not something that we do like within like the first month of a campaign. It's more of like when we've exhausted other resources, going to like protesting outside of their events, disrupting their events, protesting at their offices, emailing them, and we don't get a response. Also, Condé Nast blocked our email domain like a few months ago, so we couldn't communicate with them even if we wanted to. And going and protesting outside the homes of, decision makers, executives, editors, it makes it more personal. It's easy to ignore us, when they're sitting in their offices and, maybe at an event, but it's very difficult to ignore us when we're outside of their homes. And it can be very effective, as you can see. The last couple of campaigns, like long-running campaigns that we did, like Marc Jacobs, for example, Max Mara, and now Condé Nast. These campaigns have been going on for like a year. I think Marc Jacobs was 2 years. Within some months of us starting home demos, we ended up winning.
Can't argue with what works, huh? Yeah, that's great. And Susie, I also wanted to talk to you. We mentioned before about mobilization around this campaign, and I know collaboration was a big part of this campaign. So many grassroots groups around, and so many individuals who lent their expertise to this campaign, or just lent their free time, or whatever the case may have been. But can you just talk for a moment about how crucial it was for the campaign to have so many people behind it who were putting in this great amount of work?
Yeah, for sure. I think a big part of why this campaign succeeded is because of the mobilization and the dedication of so many of the local groups in different cities. Like I think Mark mentioned a little bit before, in New York, we had activists with New York Hates and Armney, which is Rachel's group, protesting like 2 times a week. In Boston, activists with Chainsaw were protesting a crazy amount. They would organize home protests like 3 days in a row. Chicago, activists with Chicago ADL, they have been protesting American Girl doll pretty much on a weekly basis since the start of the campaign. And like Lauren mentioned, DC got involved, New Jersey got involved, even London. They organized several demonstrations and disruptions outside of Vogue events. So there really was a lot of widespread support for this campaign. And, we're just grateful that so many activists recognize the significance, of what it means to get fur out of Vogue and out of Condé Nast.
Yeah, I know activists in Pittsburgh and Milan and Austin and just all kinds of different cities. I mean, everywhere. There's like multiple groups in Boston now, and like multiple groups in New York, and multiple groups like I mean, just everywhere. That when London got involved, that got me so psyched to see the campaign just like happening across the world and from where I am and in the United States. And yeah, they did a really epic. I mean, I could talk about so many of the different amazing actions that happened in this campaign, but you brought up London, so I have to mention their really epic disruption of a Vogue business event. And yeah, like watching that was so inspiring. It was just like a handful of women that went in, I think, and wow, yeah, they got on top of chairs and just talked about what the animals go through and told everybody in that room that animals are suffering on fur farms. There's anal and vaginal electrocution, there's skinning alive, there's bludgeoning, there's, you know, gassing and just, you know, them being miserable in their cages. And so many of us know what happened. You know, so many of us have seen the footage of what happens to these animals, and that's why we want them out of these cages and not going through this suffering. And yeah, I just thought it was, for me, it was like a really inspiring action to see. And it made it that much more special that it was in London, making this campaign like truly international. And yeah, just seeing all the support from everybody around the world on the campaign was just insane. And I know an activist even got arrested, Lauren.
Yeah, that was last week, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago. Somebody, I was talking about this arrest with somebody, and they said this phrase, and it's just like, I feel like it's such a symbolic of like all the stuff we do. But he said, scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds. Like if you scratch someone who says they're super progressive, they all of a sudden they're authoritarian. Like if you make them uncomfortable, and that was exactly what happened. This teen Vogue executive was being home protested for just a few minutes. There is some evidence that we don't know what exactly she said, but we know the person that called 911 had told the police that activists were throwing fake blood at her house. And we know when the police got there and questioned the executive about it, she said, well, no, they're not throwing fake blood, but I know that animal people do that. So immediately lying on the activists, or allegedly, we're not 100% sure. And then she wanted them trespassed from the road, which the police did. The police told the activists that they were trespassed and took all of their IDs. And then one activist, while the police liaison was talking to the police about whether or not they should be trespassed, he's deaf. He was given an order allegedly to stop blowing on like a little horn, a vuvuzela, if you know what that is. And he was arrested because he couldn't hear the guy. He couldn't hear the command. And even as the other activists were saying, hey, he's deaf, he can't hear you, the officer is leaning into his ear and saying, you're deaf? Do you know what stop means? He's behind him. So no, he can't understand you. There's a really great video actually of his point of view on AAC's Instagram. It's like getting arrested from a deaf person's perspective. I thought the video was really well done. But yeah, and World Animal, oh my God, I don't remember. One of the magazines that reported on it, I thought had a good quote where they were like, this is how people are treated when they want a kinder world. Like this is what people are up against just for asking the world to be a better place. And that activist is incredible and is a big part of this win.
Yeah, I know someone asked earlier about the legality of home demos, and I don't think any of us on the call here are lawyers and, able to give out legal advice. But, what I would say just from experience of like seeing home demos happen in the animal rights movement and from seeing, just regular run-of-the-mill protests, is that a lot of times the cops are just going to do what they want to do, regardless. I've seen people get arrested while totally obeying the law on a public street for no reason, just because activists are annoying, and the cops get calls and calls and calls, and eventually they want people to stop calling, so they try to do something about it. Or, I'm not saying that's necessarily what happened in this instance, but I do know from seeing the video that the cops were, the way they treated that activist, and didn't even try to communicate with somebody who communicates differently, it was pretty disgusting. You can check out that video that Lauren was talking about on AAC and CAFT's Instagram. We do have a question from Michelle, who's usually with us on the live stream, so I'm glad she's here in the comments supporting us. Hey, Michelle. The win got mainstream media attention. What's everyone's thoughts on that? I want to start by saying, like, CNN, that's awesome, and it's great to see Coalition to Abolish the Fur Trade getting the credit that they deserve from some of these really big media outlets. So I'll throw it to you, Mark. What do you think the media attention does for campaigns going forward, and what kind of awareness does that bring into the cruelty of fur?
We're really excited about it. I think maybe with the exception of our Mark Jacobs campaign, but I almost think it's arguable. I think this was the campaign we most needed media attention on, because so much of this was about a symbol. Like, so much of it was about showing that fur is out of vogue, as it were, and so getting the media attention on that was absolutely critical. I think the fact that we did also kind of speaks to like how monumental the win is. I think even CNN understands that this is a fundamental shift in terms of what's acceptable in fashion, and it really sends a message. So the fact that all these places are picking it up, and all these publications that I think are not so much household names, but they're household names in the fashion world, like Business of Fashion, Women's Wear Daily, two of the most significant fashion publications outside of Vogue. Vogue did not cover it, surprise, surprise, but we did send it to them. But I really think it just shows like how significant it was, and I think we really did need that media attention to send the message to the rest of the industry, make sure this didn't just happen quietly.
Yeah. For those who just joined, we are discussing the massive victory of Vogue and Condé Nast going fur free. This is so big for so many reasons, in my opinion, and we've got some more questions coming in from our viewers. Dr. Jerry Vlasic, our friend, is in the comments. He says, could you discuss some of the false claims that may have come following this epic win for the animals? For example, has Condé Nast, like others before, claimed they already had a fur-free policy? Susie, I want to throw this to you. I know the fur-free policy is a tiny line at the bottom of the screen on a very long statement from Condé Nast. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there are some publications that, will always side with, the companies, like Condé Nast. Something similar happened with Max Mara. But so some of the publications, I think Women's Wear Daily was saying that, representative from Condé Nast said that they had already had this policy for years. But when we were in communication, via our attorneys with Condé Nast, they sent us the policy directly. And we actually checked on the Wayback Machine. So it was a new edition in September, like the end of September. That line was not there. So we can confirm that this is a new policy. We had also been tracking for like several months now, different instances where Condé Nast publications had promoted real fur and new fur. And, there are several examples. Even the September issue of GQ had a real fur hat in it.
And that was pretty recent, you said?
Yeah, that was September.
Yeah, very, very recent, last month.
Yeah.
I might add in too, I think it's a little absurd that they do this. And it was absurd when they did it with Max Mara too, where they're like selling for like 2 weeks before, we have it documented, and then they're claiming they haven't sold it in like a year. But it's funny for them to, they brought in the legal counsel formerly representing the NRA. There was the NRA's head counsel they brought in to go after us. They're doing all this stuff, and we're doing all this stuff. And it's a little bit absurd for them to be like, yeah, but we had the policy the whole time. We just didn't want to, I don't know, pay our web guy $20 to update the website or whatever it is. Like, no, obviously you didn't want to do this because you wanted to continue promoting fur. You have advertisers who wanted you to continue promoting fur and had a lot of leverage on you. I think it's one of these things too, where it's just kind of like patently absurd.
I'll also add that a lot of the time these companies don't want to admit that, that activists pressured them into announcing a fur-free policy. So they'll say things like this.
I also think we provided some proof to all of the. We sent out a press release, and we provided proof to the people that reported this incorrectly, and they refused to fix it. And I think another thing to consider is that we went after a publication for what they're publishing, and we're talking to other publications. So they might be particularly interested in not being our friends and not giving us good coverage.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I know in some language somewhere it might have been like private interactions, but Condé Nast said something about their long-standing commitment to whatever, and apparently they were selling for or advertising for last month.
They had a private commitment that existed in their hearts or something. It's like, what?
Yeah, this imaginary commitment. But yeah, to Susie's point, like I think it's hard. I mean, in general in life, maybe it's hard for people to admit when they're wrong, and maybe it's also especially hard to admit it when a very public campaign has been going on. Can you talk about that a little bit, Susie? Like, why don't these companies want to admit that the activists are what made them go for free? I remember one of the other like early CAFT campaigns was Oscar de la Renta, and after some secondary campaigning and some hard-hitting activism, they had dug their feet in and told CAFT they're never ever going to go fur free. You can forget about it. And then they went fur free and said it was because Billie Eilish nudged them to do so, or something like that. That was a little more palatable for the public, and not having to admit that a pressure campaign is what.
Can I actually correct that story really quick?
Yeah, sure.
We actually put out that they went for free when they did. They had it taken down off of all these magazines because all like Women's Wear Day, I don't know exactly which one it was, but they had it taken down out of the news. And then 2 days later, Billie Eilish got them to go for free. It was a wild scheme.
Yeah, and I guess it's more palatable, for them. It's an easier pill for them to swallow. But Susie, why do these companies do this? Like, why don't they want to admit that somebody called them out and said, hey, this is wrong, and we changed our mind? Like, why can't they do that?
I mean, I think with CAFT specifically, like, these companies hate us. I mean, we're protesting outside of their homes. And, our campaigns are always, hard hitting. We apply a lot of pressure. So, I think they just don't want to admit defeat. And they would much rather, publicize that, they came to their own conclusion, or sometimes they'll even reach out to another publication or another organization, maybe like HSUS or PETA, and, sort of go through them. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on it. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that.
If not, we'll move on to you want to say something?
I might have one. My only other thing is I think no company wants to admit that activist pressure works because they don't want the public to be empowered to say like, oh, we can get companies to change the things they do.
Yeah, although Mark Jacobs kind of admitted it, which is pretty funny. Not in a great way, like he wasn't giving activists any credit, but he definitely admitted that it works. We have a really great question from Tony. Tony asks or says, understanding that Elle already quit promoting fur in 2021 and now Condé Nast with Vogue, GQ, etc. A question: are there any other big international fashion magazines left? Lauren, you want to take that one?
Sure. Honestly, it's not that I would never go back on this. I think no. Like Vogue and like Condé Nast are just the largest fashion empire in terms of publications in the world. They're one of the biggest publishers in the world, period. And what they say matters so much. Like the cultural impact of Vogue magazine not showing fur is just insane. No, every other magazine is now in the wrong. Like they're gonna have to catch up. Going after them, in my opinion, right now, wouldn't be worth it. They have to meet industry standard. Vogue sets the standard.
Yeah, that was a great question from Tony. Thank you for that question. Keep the questions coming, and I will do my best to field them. Our friend Jenny McQueen is viewing. Thanks for being with us, Jenny, to celebrate this amazing win. Jenny asked, do you think that the win over Condé Nast and Vogue will impact LVMH? Mark, you want to take that one?
Sure thing. And thanks, Jenny, for all your activism. I'm sure many people on the stream know Jenny's an incredible activist out in Toronto who has done work for so many years. I think it'll have a massive impact. To be honest, I would say the impact on LVMH specifically was the number one reason we did this campaign. Like, obviously, we care about it in terms of other companies it will impact because LVMH is not the only one selling fur. But really, the number one reason we did this was to impact LVMH. I think a lot of we're in kind of a long-term campaign against LVMH that we don't necessarily expect to be wrapped up very soon. They're the last major holdout for fur, and they fund the fur industry itself. They actually, beyond just buying fur, they're actually funding fur industry lobby groups and things like that that help certification schemes and things like that that actually help keep the industry alive. So really, this is a huge part of the reason we did it. They are a huge advertising partner for Vogue. So even the fact that Vogue and Condé Nast did it makes me think they've probably already had some discussion about this, because I'm sure LVMH was in there telling them not to do this. I think we'd heard some rumors that there'd been consideration many years ago about doing something like this, but the concern was the loss of advertiser revenue. The fact that Condé Nast is just willing to take that on the chin now and say, really, this is over, fur is done. I think the impact will be massive on LVMH. They don't want to put out designs that can't be shown in Vogue magazine. I think CNN covered it pretty well. I'll read a quote from them. They said, but it is in its implications for Vogue, long seen as the preeminent arbiter of fashion, that this change is the most profound, representing the shift away from fur within the industry. So I think even kind of a non-fashion magazine like CNN really understands what this means to the industry, and LVMH understands it even better, and they will feel the impact of this.
Yeah, and for those of you who have never heard of LVMH or don't know who LVMH is, they are the conglomerate that owns Louis Vuitton, Dior, Fendi, Berluti, Loro Piana, and I believe others. And many of these brands sell fur, some off and on, some quite on the regular, like Fendi. And they are a massive company. Bernardo Arnault with LVMH, he's like off and on one of the richest people in the world. And so I'm sure with the Condé Nast win and having had LVMH potentially in their ear saying, hey, you really shouldn't do this, we don't want you to do this, and Condé Nast doing it anyway because they would rather not deal with the activist pressure. I think that says a lot about what the movement can achieve. And, you know, hopefully LVMH is peeing in their pants a little bit. But another question that's kind of in the same breath is from Brent. Will this win have a trickle-down effect to other magazines and luxury brands? We already kind of covered the magazine part. Or will it mostly affect like cultural trends? Anybody want to take that one?
I think both. I think, Condé Nast is the industry standard. So industry standard is now for free. So I think for magazines, definitely. And then as Mark said, nobody wants a collection that you can't put in Vogue magazine. Vogue magazine is where you want your collection to be advertised. And another thing is that Condé Nast is coming out with a platform for influencers to like share their closet. So you can go to like Mark's closet and you get all his favorite clothes and you can buy straight from there. And that would, people would have been able to sell fur on that platform too. And I imagine that's going to take off. That to me sounds like something that feels very, very now and like it's going to be big. So that's another place where they're not going to be able to sell fur.
I would say it probably is going to be pretty big because I know I want to know what's in Mark's closet. I mean, I see him wearing that Raid shirt. I have the same one, so I would say Mark's pretty influential if he were to get on that to get on that app. We have let's see, another question. Also another question from Brent. Brent, we've already covered media stuff a little bit, but he's asking how the media has been in their accuracy as far as like covering this. I mean, the media I've seen, some of it's been pretty favorable, but Mark, you look like you might have something else to say.
Yeah, you're right. Overall, pretty favorable. I love the CNN article. I think our big disagreement was, I think maybe we touched on it, this thing where they were saying Condé Nast is claiming they privately had this policy for a long time, for like a very long time, and they just hadn't publicized it. Demonstrably false. It was certainly, and in another publication, they even just said that they did have the policy, I believe, which that is clear. It came up in the last week very clearly from the archived versions of the page. And then clearly from the fact that they're advertising so much for, including Susie was showing me one, I think there are actually multiple ones where it's with their affiliate link too. So they're not only just like showing it in a runway collection, they're literally saying, here's how to buy this fur jackets or what in this particular case from Louis Vuitton. And so it really is like patent. And this was in the last year. It's very just absurd to say that they privately had a fur-free policy. Certainly not a well-enforced one. So we'll help them enforce it at least, if so. But I think we did issue a correction on this to a couple publications. And I mean, obviously these are people who are very close with Condé Nast and Vogue magazine. So they didn't, publish our correction as we kind of expected. But overall, the coverage was, at least it understood the value of the win.
Yes, I think so too, even if some of the details were a little sketchy. Brent asked another question, and Brent, I'm actually going to hold this and not have them answer until the end. So this will be something everybody can stick around for. But Brent asks, how do people get involved in CAFT and AAC to join future campaigns? What roles are most helpful, researcher, organizer, other? I want to get to that at the very end because we're going to have some calls to action. So I'm going to come back to your question. I hope everybody will stick around to hear the answer to that one. But for now, our friend Anti-Groundhog Day has a question that I want to get to right now, which is, and I'll throw this to you, Susie, what stops these companies from going back on their word when they give a fur-free policy? Is it just the resulting social pressure if they started selling and promoting fur again, or what keeps them from, I think if I remember correctly, maybe some companies have gone back on their word and it didn't go too well for them. Maybe you could talk about that too.
Yeah. I just think they don't want the heat. Like they don't want to take the pressure of us, going after them again. So it has happened in the past. I think it was with Neiman Marcus. and we noticed that they were selling like a few pieces of fur. And when that happens, especially if it's been, you know, a previous campaign of ours, we drop everything and, you know, bring down the hammer. Just tell everyone to go ahead and restart the campaign. We have no problem doing that. And you know, we're certainly going to be monitoring Condé Nast and all of their publications, like we already have been. And you know, we'll be ready to restart the campaign if that happens. I think Lauren, did you want to add to that?
Oh, I have like the same thing to say. It's no problem. We just start the campaign again. And the good thing about restarting a campaign for accountability is that we don't have to go through any of the research phase. I don't have to do emails first. We're at your front door 5 seconds after fur gets posted. That's easy for us. It sounds very fun. And the cities will love it. So I think I almost think accountability is like a little. I think we might have a couple accountability protests on this one, just because I don't know. I don't know if you guys agree with that. It's such a big company that you know, I think that they are going to have to adjust to like how to monitor this themselves. But we're certainly happy to help them as they learn how to do that.
Yeah, hopefully they'll figure it out pretty quickly, and that won't have to happen. But if it does, Mark, I know something happened with the Neiman Marcus campaign. How Neiman Marcus, I think, put fur back on. How long did they have fur back on before they went back to the fur-free policy?
I want to say it was like 4 days. And I actually think that it was probably an accident. I mean, they should have checked their email because we did email them to let them know we would restart the campaign. I think we gave them like a day before we actually took action on it. So I almost think that it was like someone who wasn't aware of the policy, like found some old inventory in a warehouse and threw it back up, and probably had a tough week at work after that. You know, if I had to guess, I'd say it probably wasn't malicious, but they should have responded to our email. I think with Condé Nast as well, like, I mean, you know, we will reach out, of course. I think that like the odds are they probably will have some mess ups because, like, I mean, they have freelance editors who write for them, or, you know, freelance journalists who write for them. Not everyone's going to be aware of this policy.
Massive company, yeah.
Yeah, so like I do think there'll be more of that type of thing, and you know, we'll contact them, of course. But obviously, yeah, if they are not willing to engage, not willing to take down the content promoting fur, of course, we will restart the campaign immediately. And I don't think they want that.
Also, can I just add, just in case, Condé or Brewer, if you're watching this, can you unblock our email domain? Because if we can't email you about this, we're just going to start protesting again. And I feel like it's just going to take way longer. So if their lawyer is Brewer, this is the NRA guy. So I feel like you have to watch this. Could you just tell them to unblock our email domain? It's caftusa.org. Thank you.
Yes, no protests unless they break the policy. But you know, CAFT wants to be able to contact you just in case, you know, you need to be reminded of what this policy entails from time to time. So somebody, Daniel asked, do you think it's valuable to allow these companies a way out that saves face for them? For example, not contesting when they lie and say they've already had the policy in place. I mean, I'll mention something about this one and throw it to y'all if you have anything else to add. But I mean, the entire campaign, you know, this, for example, was a 9-month campaign. The entire campaign is based on the fact that they didn't have this policy. So I kind of think it's important for activists to, you know, at least make mention that, yeah, this is a lie, because, you know, because otherwise, what would have been the point of having the campaign? Now, if they want to save face or whatever and say like, oh, you know, Humane World for Animals got us to do it, or, you know, whatever organization they want to pick, you know, and I think the bigger orgs are good for that, and that, you know, sometimes it's important to work with those big orgs on those kinds of things if it will allow them a way out that they're comfortable with. And I personally think that's fine. I don't know if you guys have any different opinions on that. Anybody?
I don't think I really care. I feel like the company, like as long as we can communicate to our base, like they didn't have a for free policy. I don't really care if the company lies about it. I don't know. I feel like they can do what they want. They can say it was PETA or Humane World or whatever, or they can. I don't know. I actually don't think I care at all what the company says as long as they go for free. They can say we asked them to go more for, and they went for free to spite us. I don't think I really care what they say.
Somebody asked a question. I didn't catch the name, but somebody asked a question in the chat about mom and pop fur stores. I think this is a really good question, actually, because I know with CAFT being a great influence in the animal rights community, I know more and more people over the years have gone on, have been more interested in anti-fur work, and may want to get involved in anti-fur work, and they may not always have a CAFT target in their city. So what do y'all think about mom and pop fur shops? I know sometimes it might be fruitful, sometimes it may not be the best idea, but does anybody have any advice for people who maybe have something like that in their town, but they don't have a CAFT target?
Where I would say you want to look at it is like, what is your leverage on the company? Because if ultimately you can't put more pressure on them, then they benefit from selling fur, they're not going to stop doing it. So if it's just a fur store, then I don't think that they're going to stop selling fur because you protest. I don't think there's any chance. However, if it's maybe a small business that sells a little bit of fur, they definitely might. And in fact, you might have more leverage because it's a smaller thing. You can kind of control the entire campaign and be out there all the time and, really cause some trouble. So I think that might be a little different. But my encouragement, honestly, would be in a lot of these situations, if you have like a fur store in your town and that's all you've got really that's selling fur, you don't have the national or international target there, I think it's a great idea to maybe consider going for a legislative effort here in your town. Some of these town council, city council, county council, whatever it is, pieces of legislation aren't that hard to get. And I'm not really the expert on it, but there's a lot of like really good groups you could talk to. You could reach out to Lauren through a role at AAC. You could reach out to Amanda with Animal Rights Initiative. There's a ton of really great groups doing this kind of thing. I know Ezra out in Boston has gotten some great wins this way, and really just get like a fur ban in your town, because if it's just one business selling fur in your town, it may not be that hard. You may not have that much opposition. And I think that honestly is probably an easier way to beat like a one-off fur store than with a protest campaign.
I will say, I can never remember the name of the store, but there's this amazing video on YouTube. Maybe somebody in the comments can help me out with this and help me remember the name. But there's this amazing video on YouTube where this journalist is interviewing a furrier whose store is about to close down. And he's from Oregon. And this was probably in the late 90s or early 2000s. I want to say early 2000s. And it was a furrier, and I know those targets are harder because you're basically like asking them to close down. You're not asking, hey, can you remove this one thing from your from your store. It's basically asking them to either totally change their business model or to close down, which I know is a much harder ask than asking a big company who barely sells fur to get rid of fur. But yeah, the interview is amazing because the guy is basically unknowingly giving activists a step-by-step on how to close down a furrier. And I hope that you'll look up the video and be able to find the name of it. But for example, activists would just like go there like every Saturday and put on these crazy protests where they were like just acting absolutely nuts. And it was actually really funny. And it got to the point to where nobody wanted to go in his store because they knew they'd have to deal with the protesters. And then he tried to move inside of a mall so that it would be harder for the protesters. And then the protesters contacted the mall and said, if you let this guy into your mall, we will be protesting your mall. So the mall didn't want him. And eventually he just couldn't find anywhere to go because he was like a pariah that the protesters followed around, and they were able to successfully shut down this furrier. And that's really one of the only stories about a mom and pop furrier type store. That's really one of the only success stories I've heard about something like that. So I think there would probably have to be like a lot of the right elements to engage in a campaign like that. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I wanted to throw that out there. You should watch. I really hope somebody can help me remember the name, because it's a really great video to watch. And by the way, that question, I didn't catch the name before, but that was from Susan. So thank you so much, Susan, for the question. All right, we have another question. What will happen with all the animals that were being raised for fur? Christina, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. Do you mean like hopefully I'll rephrase this question accurately, but what is the impact on fur-bearing animals that this win over Condé Nast has?
I think part of the reason Tyler founded CAFT, Tyler was an animal liberator. He liberated a mink farm and went to prison over that, which is the only reason why we would discuss it, because it's already been prosecuted. But they saw that as they were liberating these farms, a lot of farms are just moving overseas. They're moving to China. So in order to attack those farms, like, we don't have a bunch of activists over there that are gonna liberate those farms. So what we can do is we can control the supply by controlling the market. So the Chinese supply is largely dictated by what the Western market wants. So these brands, even though they're heavily in the US and Europe, as well as Asia, we can get them to take it off globally, and then it'll just impact their supply. So the numbers that I saw from, I believe, Humane World, there were 100 million animals in the fur industry. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2022, and now we're down to 60 million by some counts, but I've heard 40 million from others. So these animals just get taken, they're just not bred. So either farms downsize or they totally shut down. I know in the United States, there's only about 60 farms left.
I had to look up this video that I was talking about. I found it. I'm gonna try to get it into the comments here in a minute, but I really think people should watch this. All right, I had another question. I got distracted. I'm sorry. Okay, I think this is an important question, because I've been seeing this question in a little bit in the comments on social media, and there's been so many comments, it's hard to respond. But some people might ask, why not push Condé Nast and Vogue to go completely vegan? Or now that we've got the fur-free policy, why not go after them for a leather-free policy, or a silk-free policy, or a cashmere-free policy, or something like that? Does anybody want to take that question? It boils down to strategy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to focus on what we can realistically win right now. And I mean, if you look at something like, cashmere, like, designers are not moving away from that right now. And, it's just not something we're going to win against a place like Vogue magazine. And I think another really critical thing here is that we have to not send the message that if you do one thing, we're going to come immediately back at you for another thing. That, I think, is really important to winning these campaigns. So I think it actually really hurts the movement if we then try to expand our ask shortly after they've given us a fur-free policy, and we say, okay, well, what about leather though? Because then at that point, it's like, why would they ever negotiate with us? Like, if they give us the fur-free policy we're asking for, and then a month from now we we're asking for a leather-free policy, then there's no reason they should have ever caved to our campaign. It just doesn't make sense for them. And if we make our ask up front that they just go vegan, then we just won't win. So like, it is really, the frustrating thing, I think, in these animal rights campaigns is that there's so many ways animals are harmed. And I think all of us care a lot about that. I mean, there's many ways, of course, outside of fashion too, that I think animals are being exploited and harmed, that I would like to do something about. But we're kind of focusing on what we can win and, building up to a better world for animals. And I think as these wins happen, it does push society. So as society says, oh, yeah, like nobody sells fur, I'm against fur, which unfortunately tends to be how it works. Like we see this in other social justice issues too, but once it's not something that's happening anymore, then it's very easy for people to change their minds and say that, yeah, that's something they're against. If everyone's buying, wearing fur, selling fur, it's very easy to be pro fur. But once we get the public on our side, and we already to some degree have that with fur, and once we get it out of the stores, the public moves on that issue. And then I think that does expand into other issues where now people start to wonder about like, well, what about these other issues? And like, how can we, have more of a social justice mindset towards those as well? But if we come right after a target for something like leather or wool, we'll just stop winning campaigns. Like we won't be able to continue. So I think it would ultimately hurt the animals for us to do that. And I know at the end of the day, all of us just want to help the animals.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really great take, and I'm glad we talked about this because, yeah, I know. I remember after the Canada Goose win, they went for free, and a lot of the comments were like, "Now it's time to go after them for using down," and I'm thinking like, if we do that, yeah, that sends a message to every other fur-free campaign that we're going to do that, hey, once you do this one thing we ask of you, we're just going to ask for something else. And if that's the reputation that the animal rights builds, then no one's ever going to take our ask seriously because they're going to think that we're just going to not leave them alone until they're completely vegan. And for a lot of really large companies, the ask of going completely vegan is just like not going to happen right now or anytime in the near future, right? So I think having a reputation as like, hey, when you do what we ask, we leave you alone, that is like one of the most powerful reputations that we can have, because everybody that is getting protested in the future is going to know like, hey, I just got to say fur-free policy and these people go away. So yeah, thanks for answering that, Mark. I really appreciate it. So I want to go back to Brent's question. We're probably nearing up on the end here. So I teased it earlier, and we'll come back to it. So Brent asked, how do people get involved in CAFT and AAC to join future campaigns, and what roles are most helpful? Researcher, organizer, and other. I'll quickly say for AAC that you can click on our link tree. Maybe we can get that in the comments momentarily. And there's so many different things that you can do. We offer a free mentorship program. So if you want to get involved in activism, no matter what kind of activism it is, you can get signed up for a mentor, and we will pair you with someone who's got experience in the field that you want to get into, in animal rights, and we will figure out a way to get you active for the animals. And I will let also, we have a new program, the Grassroots Pressure Campaign program, which I'm very excited about. Maybe Lauren might want to talk about that a little more in a minute. But yeah, Lauren, you want me to throw it to you for that, and then we can ask CAFT how to get involved with them.
Sure. Yeah. A big part of what we've been trying to do is get activists strong and strategic, no matter where they are. So AAC and CAFT obviously work super closely together, and also work very closely with the Duck Alliance. And I have experience strategizing with CAFT, and I was one of the early adopters of like the DC Coalition Against Foie Gras. If you've heard of that group, they're incredible. They've won over 30 foie gras campaigns. So if you'd like to start a pressure campaign in your city, or you're interested in anything like that, specifically some sort of campaign, and it doesn't have to be for foie gras. It could be any sort of low-hanging fruit issue. There's a good case for pet stores and like bullhook stuff. So there's like definitely like other low-hanging fruit issues, and it'll be like personalized to your city. But if you're interested in getting involved, you can email me at lauren@animalactivismcollective.com. I think that's going to go into the chat. Or you can signal message me. If you don't know what my signal is, someone you know knows what my signal is. So just ask the person you think is most likely to know. They probably do.
Susie, how can people get involved with CAFT? And maybe we can talk about some of the upcoming events as well.
Yeah, so we are actually starting up a newsletter, which I'm really excited about. So maybe if someone can throw that in the chat or in the comments. Yeah, so please sign up for our newsletter. You can get plugged into the anti-fur movement, get campaign updates, calls to action, and then we also have an action team. So the newsletter link has a little checkbox that says, put me on the action team. We can meet with you and we'll send you alerts whenever there's like an anti-fur protest happening nearby. And we're going to be starting an SMS program soon, so we can even send you like a text alert. But yeah, we're happy to meet with anyone. We want more people to get involved in the anti-fur movement. And, even if if you don't have any LVMH targets in your city and you're interested in starting maybe like a small local campaign, anti-fur campaign, we can provide guidance. We're always happy to meet. And, we need more people to organize for the LVMH campaign. We're happy to provide, materials, stickers, posters, whatever you need. And of course, participating in our weekends of action. We have one coming up October 24th to the 26th. So it was originally supposed to be a Vogue World Weekend of Action because they're hosting this big event in Los Angeles. But since we won that campaign, we're asking everyone to go to Berluti, which is a subsidiary of LVMH. And our friends in Europe have been really spearheading the Berluti campaign. And there's been tons of excellent actions in Europe, all over Europe, against Berluti. And if you don't have a Berluti in your city, visit a local LVMH Target. Again, we can help you find those stores. So sign up for our newsletter and our action team. Maybe seeing another event. Oh, we have Fur Free Friday, of course. So Fur Free Friday is on November 28th. And it's the one of the biggest shopping days of the year. So it falls on Black Friday. It's kind of like an animal rights tradition. So we're asking everybody to mobilize, to organize, get out there on the streets. And if you're a city that is organizing your own Fur Free Friday, please reach out to us. We're happy to send out an alert to our mailing list. AAC is hosting like a mini convergence here in New York City, which I'm really excited about. It's the 27th to the 30th. Is that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, great. And there should be a sign up link, hopefully in the comments or in the chat. But yeah, if you're free that weekend, space is limited, so we're encouraging people to sign up ASAP. But yeah.
Yeah, so just to recap, we've got the Fall of Fur. So that's in cities all over the world, November 28th through the 30th. And then we've got the AAC's, what they're doing for Fall of Fur, which is the New York Fur Free Weekend, November 27th through the 30th. And you can sign up using our link tree. Maybe we can get AAC's link tree in the chat, in the comments again. And yeah, we hope to see you get involved in some anti-fur work and be a part of the next win. And I know those wins are coming. So yeah, all that's really exciting. I want to wrap up shortly. Let's go around the horn, and I would just love to hear from everyone. Any final thoughts? Just wrapping up the victory here, and also just your thoughts about anti-fur activism, and just some inspiring words for anti-fur activists going forward. We're going to celebrate for a minute, but then we're going head on into the next campaign. So if we could just go around and with some final thoughts, Lauren, if you want to kick us off.
Sure. I'm just so grateful for this community, specifically like with CAFT and AAC. It's so, I don't know, I feel like I know a lot of people in this community, like even the people that are just in the chat right now. And it's so like funny that like we're gonna be the ones that end the fur industry. Like this is animal rights history. It's unbelievable. It's just the coolest thing to be a part of, and I'm really humbled and proud to be doing this work with all of you.
Susie?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to echo what Lauren said. I'm just so incredibly inspired and grateful to this community for, constantly sticking with us. And, we have so many amazing activists that support these campaigns. We really wouldn't be able to do a lot of what we do without everyone that's part of this community. So thank you for believing in us. And just look at what we can achieve when we work together. And like Lauren said, like we're going to end the fur industry. Like we're all going to make history for animals. So I think that's something that like everybody should be incredibly proud of.
Mark, take us home.
I'm thrilled about the win. Fur is out of Vogue, and this is huge for us. But I would really just echo what Lauren and Susie said. There are organizations out there that win campaigns predominantly through the efforts of staff members. We are the exact opposite. These campaigns are won by all the people on the streets. And I think that we win campaigns because people on the streets know that these are their campaigns. We have people like my friend in Boston who got arrested and honestly ended up really embarrassing this, Teen Vogue with this story, took a risk and is, facing some heat for it, but was willing to take risks because he knows that this is his campaign. And we have so many people around the world who know that these are their campaigns, treat them like that. And honestly, that's the only reason we win. And we can defeat this industry together, and we can build a model for defeating all these industries of animal exploitation together.
Beautifully said, everybody. I want to thank each and every one of you, the people on this call, for all you did for this campaign, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the work that you and others and people around the world have done that will honestly never be seen or fully appreciated by anybody, but work that is necessary for these campaigns to succeed and for the animals to get what they deserve. So I want to thank you and everybody at CAFT and everybody in all the grassroots groups in the United States, Europe, and beyond that helped this campaign win. It's amazing. I'm so proud. The Animal Activism Collective has been working with CAFT for like 5 years now, and the beautiful relationship that the two organizations have. And everything, here's to everything that all of us are going to achieve together going forward. I'm so excited about it. I hope that everybody who worked really hard on this campaign will take a moment to breathe and really appreciate what's been done for the animals with this Condé Nast victory, with Vogue being fur free. It's absolutely incredible. And I also want to reiterate to people that, while I love these people on this call and everybody that had something to do with this campaign, we're all like normal, everyday people that can do something. So, the people on this call are great. People who are really involved in the campaign are great, but everybody's a normal, everyday person that can decide like, hey, I want to take action and I want to get something done. I want to be a part of these victories. And, you know, I really want to use my spare time or dedicate my life or like whatever level of commitment you want to take to help animals. Just take that time and do it and use that time in the most effective way you possibly can. And I think CAFT is just an amazing organization that does not waste time or effort. They're very strategic in what they do. And I think any way that you can get involved in a CAFT campaign would be time very well spent. Thank you so much to everybody who took the time to jump on this call and celebrate and share in this victory, and hopefully be inspired by what everybody on the call had to say. And until next time, thank you so much, everybody.